insane way your parents controlled your body. When I hit 5'4", my father declared I was done growing because that was the perfect height for a woman, and anything taller would ruin my life. Dad was a failed architect who spent years creating theories about human proportions and female marriageability. He believed women over 5'4" had exponentially higher divorce rates and lower happiness scores based on data he'd collected from dating websites and celebrity measurements. He covered our walls with charts showing the correlation between height and misery in women. According to his research, I had reached the exact height where I'd maximize my chances of finding a husband and minimize my chances of dying alone. The problem was, I had just turned 14 and nowhere near done growing. Dad measured me obsessively throughout my childhood and kept detailed logs of every inch. He'd make me stand against the kitchen wall every Sunday while he marked my height and calculated my growth rate. When I passed 5'2", he started getting nervous and researching ways to slow down growth. By 5'3", he was leaving articles on my bed about the health benefits of coffee for teenagers and the way malnutrition kept women petite in developing countries. But when I hit 5'4", he completely panicked. He threw away all my vitamins and started monitoring my food intake to make sure I wasn't getting too many nutrients. He said 1 more inch would push me into the danger zone where men would feel emasculated and I'd never find love. His methods started small but escalated quickly when I kept growing. First, he made me sleep without a pillow because he thought lying flat would keep me compressed. Then he started waking me up throughout the night to do stretches that were supposed to prevent my spine from elongating while I slept. He bought special shoes with compressed soles that made me walk like I was sinking into mud. When none of that worked, he hired a chiropractor who claimed he could manipulate my spine to stop growth through aggressive adjustments 3 times a week. I'd leave those appointments barely able to walk, while Dad cheerfully noted that I looked shorter already. He convinced Mom that tall women suffered from joint problems and early arthritis, so she supported his interventions even when I sobbed through the treatments. By 15, I was 5'6", and Dad was desperate. He found a doctor online who wasn't licensed in our state, but promised results through extreme methods. This man put me in weighted vests that I had to wear 16 hours a day to compress my spine. The weight started at 20 pounds, but increased every week until I could barely stand upright. He also prescribed a sleeping contraption that looked like a medieval torture device, which compressed my body horizontally while I slept. I'd wake up gasping for air with my ribs feeling crushed, but Dad would just check the measurements and declare it was working. He pulled me out of sports and made me quit dancing because physical activity might stretch me out. Instead, I spent hours doing compression exercises while he lectured about the dating statistics for tall women. I started hiding my real height by constantly bending my knees and slouching, which destroyed my posture but kept Dad calm. At school, I'd sneak into the bathroom to stretch for a few minutes between classes just to relieve the pain. Teachers noticed me wincing when I sat down and asked if I was okay, but I couldn't explain that my father was slowly compressing me like a human accordion. Then I met Oliver at a school event where I was practically crouching to hide my height. He was shorter than me, but didn't care at all, which blew my mind after years of Dad's indoctrination. When I told him about the weighted vests and compression treatments, he looked horrified and said that wasn't normal. For the first time, I realized other girls my height weren't being medically tortured by their fathers. Oliver and I started dating secretly, and he'd massage my compressed spine after school while I practiced standing normally. His mom was 5'10" and had been happily married for 20 years, which shattered Dad's entire belief system. I felt like a real person for the first time in years instead of a defective product that needed fixing. But Dad found out when he followed me to Oliver's house and saw me standing at my full height through the window. He burst inside screaming that Oliver was sabotaging my future and destroying my marriageability. When Oliver called him insane, Dad grabbed me and said, "You want to be a freak? Fine, but I'm not letting you throw your life away." He dragged me home and showed me the appointment he'd made with a surgeon who specialized in leg shortening procedures. The doctor could remove sections of bone from my legs to permanently reduce my height by up to 4 inches. Dad had already paid the deposit and scheduled it for next month. He pulled out a saw from his toolbox and held it up to the light. "But if that doesn't work, princess, Daddy knows how to fix things himself." Full story on the channel below.